Across the country, we're having a debate about the Republican tax plan, and that debate can get very heated because of the consequences of it being passed, the huge sums of money that we're talking about, the huge tax cuts and all that, and tax increases on many Americans. And can also get heated inside of the Senate, it turns out. And in this video, we've got Republican Senator Orrin Hatch fighting with Democratic Senator Sherrod Brown over exactly what the goal of this plan is. Let's take a look.
I come from the poor people, and I've been here working my whole stinking career for people who don't have a chance. And I really resent anybody saying that I'm just doing this for the rich. Give me a break. I think you guys overplay that all the time, and it gets old. And frankly, you ought to quit it.
Mr. Chairman, the public
wait a
believes
minute.
it.
I'm not through.
Okay.
I get kind of sick and tired of it. True, it's a nice political play.
Well, Mr. Chairman,
it's not true.
With all due respect, I get sick and tired of the richest people
Regular
in
order,
this country
Mr. Chairman.
getting richer and
Regular
richer.
order.
We do a tax
Regular order.
middle class.
Wait a minute.
Regular order.
And over and over
Wait
again.
just
How
a
many
second.
times do we do this before we learn this?
Listen, I've honored you by allowing you to spout off here. And what you said was not right. That's all I'm saying. I come from the lower middle class originally. We didn't have anything. So don't spew that stuff on me. I get a little tired of that crap.
I've honored you by letting you spout off. Do you not feel honored?
To be fair, that did make it seem like Sherrod Brown had not spoken before and that Hatch was just banging the gavel when he was trying to make his argument. He did make a rather aggressive argument before that clip began.
Yeah, and so look,
which was great.
This is gonna be an admission of a form of weakness, but I'm enough of a libby-lib that like, when even like Orrin Hatch, when he goes, I've worked my whole life to help the working people, I feel like as a lib, like, wait, maybe he did. No, wait, no, he didn't. What are you talking about? Like I feel for it for a second.
He put it accurately. His whole stinking career,
Exactly.
he's worked at it, right?
But I mean, so you're rich now. But I mean, it's not about you. We're not talking about you. I'm not talking about you. You represent people. We're passing a bill that affects millions. How, what your dad did when you were born does not make it, this is in no way relevant. Sherrod Brown might say, yeah, I was born wealthy. I was born with a silver spoon in my mouth. None of that matters now. This bill, we have evidence here, and really no evidence, substantial, significant, backed up evidence to the contrary of who this bill helps and who it hurts. It's not complicated.
Yeah, the only way that his point could make any rational sense is if you do firmly believe, against all the evidence that we've seen in our lives, that trickle-down economics works, and if you simply shower the wealthy with money, some of it will eventually be passed on. Or much more directly to this bill, if you effectively eliminate corporate taxes, that they will, against all the evidence we're gonna show you later in the show, immediately plow that back into the economy, and there will be jobs and there will be prosperity.
Yeah, well, and go to what they were talking about beforehand, right? I mean, this was an amendment that was put in by Ron Wyden, the senator from Oregon.
Who, by the way, sitting next to Orrin Hatch.
Next to Orrin, right. So he puts that amendment in, and all it does is exactly to the individual tax cut what they're doing to the corporate tax cut. The corporate tax cut is a permanent tax cut from 35 to 20%. The individual goes down, but it sunsets. So then it ends, right? So what they're saying is, all right, make it so that the corporate tax cut ends if they don't prove that lower taxes will create jobs. They have to show that they are putting that into, not to create jobs, higher wages, right? And Sherrod Brown was saying they're sitting on a ton of cash right now, these big corporations, and wages aren't going up. So if you're gonna put this in the bill, Wyden's amendment says, that's fine, we'll give it to you. It's top heavy, it helps individuals right away, and then it stops helping them. But you have to put the same sunset on it for the corporations if they don't create higher wages. And that's what they're arguing about. That's what Orrin Hatch is so upset about, an amendment to create higher wages for working Americans.
And of course, you're being far too charitable there, because we know about all of the individual tax like little manipulations that they do, the quadrupling of taxes on graduate students, and some of this is gonna be different between the Senate and the House, of course. But the fact that they took away the tax credit for adopting, and then when the Democrats tried to add that back in by changing the corporate tax reduction from going down to 20% to going down to 20.05%, it was unanimously voted down by the Republicans. So like we know that they're not actually, some of those tax decreases for lower wage workers, first of all, are gonna save them almost nothing at that point, because we're talking about small sums of money, and are temporary, and are completely swamped by the changes to pass-through income and of course the corporate tax as well.
Oh, yeah,
and if you
that's
actually
true.
believed that these would create jobs, you would have no problem with that amendment. You would be like, okay, we have to show you that it raises wages. I firmly believe that it will, and so we will show you that. It should be obvious. But you do have a problem with it if you know that it's not true.
Right,
And you
or
can carry on
there's
this
no
debate if you don't care if it's true.
Or there's no mechanism for showing it.
Well, but
They're
of course,
saying
we do know, of course, because I mean, look, we've done a million videos about this, but even just recently, so TYT Investigates has been focusing very heavily on some of the lobbying efforts of particular corporations and what they have done during previous periods of tax cuts and especially tax holidays. These huge periods of repatriation of foreign wealth coming back in and what they actually do with that money. And the pattern is immediately clear. In some cases, it goes to dividends, which you can argue maybe helps out people because that theoretically they could have shares. But almost inevitably is also followed by almost no job increases, or in many cases, job decreases as well. There's simply no evidence for what Orrin Hatch is saying there.
Right.
But we do know what we're always expected to do in
regular
America.
order, John, regular order.
Regular order. What we're always expected to do in America is have this conversation about tax cuts and what they'll do. And they will say, here's all these things we think will happen down the line, that it will lead to jobs or it'll lead to wages or whatever. All that stuff hypothetically could happen. But we know immediately what will happen. The wealthy will save tons of money, corporations will save tons of money. Maybe someday the good stuff happens, but we always get those inevitable changes. And that's what Sherrod Brown and others have a big problem with, that this seems designed specifically to help only corporations and the wealthiest Americans, even though you could easily write a bill that simplifies the tax code and provides some sort of stimulus or help to those who are lower, middle, working class, all that. Hell, Obama did it with the actual stimulus. You could do that if you wanted to. You say that's what you want, but you don't actually write that bill.
Well, the good thing about what Sherrod Brown did is that is point out that it's not, they're not, this doesn't do what they say that they want to do, because they're not honest about doing what they want to do. They're not honest. They don't say what they want to do. What they want to do is they don't care if the Treasury takes in no money. They don't care if it's revenue neutral. They want it to take in less money. That's not their problem. And then they want to cut programs.
Yeah.
Like that's how this works. That's the plan. That's what they've always wanted to do. They're not
Like
interested.
CHIP. I mean, you heard him saying CHIP.
Right. Exactly like CHIP, the Children's Health Insurance Program.
Exactly. Well, actually, we have a little video about that. Why don't we? They touch on that in the second video.
And let me just say something. If we work together, we could pull this country out of every mess it's in. And we could do a lot of the things that you're talking about too. And I think I've got a reputation of having worked together with Democrats.
Let's start with CHIP.
Not starting with CHIP. I did it. I've done it for years. I've got more bills.
Start with CHIP today.
I got more bills passed than everybody on this committee put together. And they've been passed for the benefit of people in this country. Now, all I can say is I like you personally very much, but I'm telling you, this bull crap that you guys throw out here really gets old after a while. To do it right at the end of this was just not right. And it takes a lot to get me worked up like this.
To do it right at the end. No one during this entire process or for the rest of time has talked about how this is benefiting the rich.
Well, and also to do it right at the end. They held this bill so long, there was only right at the end to do it.
There was only the end.
There was no, this was
And
not
the
a
House
process.
didn't even have a hearing about it, I don't believe.
When they kicked off, there was 6 minutes and 24 seconds to play in the fourth quarter.
You can only
and they
do
talked
it right
about
at the
how
end.
they're attempting to ram it through. Originally by Thanksgiving, now they look like they want to get it before the special election in Alabama, because obviously that changes their chances of getting it passed.
I've passed, what did he say? I passed more bills than everybody on this committee combined, and you see Charles Grassley.
Also, you're 1,000. That's just numerically possible. I don't even, does that mean anything about your work ethic? I'm not sure.
And regular order. When they talk about regular order, this set of Republicans in the Senate right now who let Merrick Garland slide away from our memories.
Yeah.
And that was regular order. And where were they on regular order when Merrick Garland's name was presented by the president for the Supreme Court?
The one positive, of course, is that while he's going to sit there and try to say that nobody buys this idea that it's benefiting the wealthy, the polls are in, and I think something like 16% of the population thinks that they will personally financially benefit from this, which is still probably too high. But that's way better than the last few times we've had this debate as a country, back during Bush and all of that.
And by the way, there is, as I read today, and Ben Cardin's proposal in the Senate, the Progressive Consumption Tax Act, accomplishes everything that Republicans say they want, but it's actually a progressive tax, and it actually puts a little money into the poorest Americans and reduces by a little under 1% the money that the richest Americans would take home. They'd give up less money in this, and it reduces the corporate tax rate to, I think, 17%.
Yeah.
And so, and that plan, which is about 4 years old now, off and on, it's been evaluated by the Tax Policy Center with a couple of and it lowers the top tax brackets to 15, 25, and 28. And if I think if it says it somewhere in there, but if it's like 15, 14, 27, and 31 instead of that, then it's completely revenue neutral. And it accomplishes what they say they want, but it's proof that what they say they want isn't what they want.
Right.
They want to cut taxes. They'd like to cut taxes for everybody, but really, because the rich people do pay the most taxes, they want to cut that, and they want the government to have less money, and then they'll be able to fund less stuff when they go, hey, we don't have enough money. What are we going to do? Raise taxes?
Yeah,
Nobody wants to raise taxes.
And all these machinations come from the desire to pass this without having to get a single Democrat to vote with them. That they wouldn't be bound by that $1.5 trillion thing if they were really doing anything to get some Democrats.
It's not just
to
the
sign on.
Democrats, right? But to vote with. Now they're in great peril, and they already have lost some Republicans.
Of course, they lost Ron Johnson.
I know.
Who loses Ron Johnson?
Ron Johnson, who's got 5 years left in his Senate career, and has not.
I guess we thought that 6 years ago.
No, but at least 5 years left. But it's not like he's up next year and Wisconsin doesn't want that. That's what I'm saying. He is politically safe for the moment.
Totally.
And he went against this thing, and then of course Susan Collins will. And that's why these Republicans are going to go to another story, which I guess we're not really covering. But that's why politically they're so scared about that Alabama Senate seat too. Because they're this close on so many of these issues, and that's why they're really hurrying this thing through to try and get it passed before. But Doug Jones might be seated in the Senate.
Help us build independent media together. TYTnetwork.com/join.